Welcome back. I'm Paul Hawking, Victoria University, and we're very fortunate to have Ingo from SAP Guru in BI. It's not hard to find Ingo's name on the internet if you want to work out his surname because he's everywhere. It's on all the blogs, mentor, presentations. Very hard to avoid. Welcome to Australia, Ingo.
Thank you, Paul.
Now, the BI situation at SAP is very exciting at the moment. There's lots of new developments.
Yes, absolutely.
And we saw some this morning about
we
mobile BI and BI on demand.
exactly. We saw the iPad, we saw mobile BI, and I think specifically mobile BI is going to be even more exciting with us now acquiring Sybase. It's going to be a very interesting future, but yes, absolutely. Like you saw, for example, the analytics and by design coming up for the iPad. You saw Explorer on the iPad this morning.
There's so much BI. We were just talking before about from an Australian customer perspective. There's so many developments in BI, and I still think they're just customers are just working out how to get the biggest bang for their bucks at the moment.
Yep. And I think it's not just Australia. Like when SAP bought Business Objects, obviously a lot of customers looked at I had a back suite before, now suddenly there is SAP Business Objects. So if you just count, there was perhaps 1 or 2 tools before, now we have 5, we've got 6, and we're bringing in mobile solutions. So yes, it's going to be much bigger portfolio, and customers are kind of a little bit sometimes confused about which tool to use when. And I think the best way to learn about it is really go out to the community, as an example on SDN.
Yes.
Go out to events like this. For example, I have actually a roundtable tomorrow where we talk about how to pick the right tool based on actually what you're trying to do.
Because I think a lot of companies have made the investment with BI in Australia, and they've got BEX reports sitting there, and they're just trying to work out what that next step is for that investment.
And I think it's important for those customers to recognize that if they're just looking for a pure replacement of BEX, then basically the Project Pioneer, which is now called Advanced Analysis, is actually replacing that kind of tool. And Eric is actually doing on Thursday a keynote about advanced analysis as an office tool, as a web tool. But then on the other hand, the customer also should look at not just trying to replace BEX Analyzer, because that's like one user audience, but look beyond. There are other tools, there's Excelsius, there's Crystal Reports, there is Web Intelligence, addressing different type of users and actually different type of use cases.
So do you think with the plethora of tools and opportunities, do you think that's caused companies to slow down and have to think about their strategy to move forward?
I would agree with that. They're probably not just kind of going ahead and implementing it, which is also a good thing. They shouldn't just kind of take all the tools and actually jumpstart the project and say this is what we're going to do. We've seen that in the past, and actually some of those projects very, very ugly failed because they did not think about really which tool addresses what kind of user audience.
Yes.
They were trying to only take 1 or 2 tools and perhaps squeeze some workflows into the tools instead of really taking the time to really understand what the end user wants to do with the data and what he wants to do with the information.
Just previously I interviewed George from Telesona, and he was talking about how they revisited their reports and they reduced it from 1,000 down to 200.
Yes.
And I think that may be the situation when people are looking at the migration from BEX or what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also important when we go in, for example, from an SAP point of view. We have a lot of customers who come in and show basically all the workbooks they have today for BEX Analyzer, all the queries they have today for BEX Web Reporting. And they want to reduce the overhead of all the BW queries they have and actually make them more generically so they can use them with different kind of tools. And I think that's really important to step back for a second, understand what all the end users want, how can I minimize my administration overhead on the BW side by reducing the number of queries and actually also reducing, let's say, the complete number of reports. As an example, using Web Intelligence, giving out a little bit more power to the end user so they can change the report and they don't have to phone IT for every single request.
Yes, I think it's an exciting time, and then recent announcements about in-memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Hasselplattner made the announcement on actually Sapphire, that we're actually working on, kind of like an in-memory solution there. And I think that will kind of like become really, really interesting. We have customers in the States where they actually have all their corporate data in memory, what Tim was actually alluding this morning. I think that's something we will see in the future, where basically companies have like 10, 15 years of data in memory and just at their fingertips. I mean, think about, you basically would have your iPad, you have Explorer, and you're able to access 10 years of data, right? Which is basically just the technology is there now, right? And it becomes available also pricing-wise.
I suppose, reinforcing what we were talking about before, the planning now is really crucial to all this, because accessibility seems not to be the issue in the future, and speed.
Yeah, it's the speed is there, the tools are there, like we're all using mobile devices, it's all there. But now it's basically, what was also mentioned this morning, it's about actually we're forced to make faster decisions. We have the information, and then absolutely, yes, planning, forecasting, all those things are now coming into the game of BI, absolutely, yeah. It's going to be exciting.
It is going to be exciting, but there's going to be numerous presentations. I was responsible over the years to help develop this agenda.
Yeah.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, there might have been 2 BI-related presentations. Now we have to be careful not to turn it into a BI event, because now people want it to permeate all the different areas, whether it's the financials, whether it's sales and distribution or HR BI. It just seems to be popping up everywhere now.
Right, and people are now not only looking at, I want to do BI for financials, I want to do BI for sales. Now they're actually looking at, well, I want to see all my data. I want to actually combine my sales data with my finance data. I want to see sales and HR combined, those kind of information. And the tools are there now.
And then we've got the added pressure of dashboards popping up. Everybody wants a dashboard now.
And again, looking very nicely, like very quickly, 2 or 3 seconds. That's what we're hearing from customers in the States, or like, for also in Europe, is people are willing to wait for 2 or 3 seconds. So that's where, for example, in memory comes in, to bring in this performance, right? I mean, we're all working on Google websites. If Google doesn't come back in like 2 or 3 seconds with some results, we're probably closing the browser, we're navigating away. For BI, we have the same kind of rule now, right?
Yes, I just think it's going to be an exciting time for customers.
Absolutely.
So if you're making recommendations to customers where to start looking, you mentioned the SCN would be a good place to start.
I think SDN would be a good start, was basically getting to learn what business objects tools are about.
Yes.
There's a lot about material available in terms of, based on certain use cases, which tool would actually fit the use case.
Yes.
And then obviously actually using the community, not only on actually reading their information, but also going actually out to like communities like SDN or allow SAUG here actually come to the event, and also learn about how customers are actually using the tools. What have they done? How have they implemented? What did they learn? So actually, because then you can avoid to make perhaps the same mistake.
I know that we have some very active special interest groups around BI in Sydney and Melbourne and Canberra who are meet on regular occasions to share their knowledge.
Yeah, that's very, very important. We see that all around the world. If you would basically run the project just on your own, you have to go through all the items and all the mistakes you might do on your own. If you basically talk to customers that actually have done it, you can save all that time already. And you learn actually a lot just from like listening to them, how they approached it, how they solved the problem, how they actually built the reports, what kind of reports they're actually using. It's very, very important to leverage the community in there. And we see basically in SDN, in forums, or in different communities every single day popping up lots of questions where people ask, well, how have they done this? And other customers going in and answer those questions, helping basically to overcome those hurdles.
Oh, that's good. I'm looking forward to seeing your presentation. And thank you very much for your time, Ingo.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.